movies you were not allowed to watch as a kid because of nudity or sex, but violence seemed to be okay?
It was definitely more the case growing up for me. I mean, Catholic upbringing, like that's the classic example. No sex, but violence is whatever. But I
Hey,
also kind of
same, Vince.
yeah, exactly. I also slipped some things through just because, like, my mom had never seen Last House on the Left, so me renting that at 12 wouldn't have flown if she had known what it was, but yeah, I got away with it. But the one that always I remember that I was not allowed to rent, I think more for the sex, was a Clockwork Orange, which is weird because it's, like sexual violence especially, so just a whole mess. So that's the one that I always remember not being allowed to watch.
How old were you when you first saw it?
That was in high school, so probably 14 or 15.
Okay. That's fair. I mean,
yeah.
You got past PG-13.
You're right.
Aaron, what about you?
I think I might have snuck Clockwork in there in 7th or 8th grade. My parents also. It's interesting. Violence was really never an issue. It was always. It still is sex and profanity. Like if I'm watching a movie with my parents these days, like they'll walk out of the room for a sex scene and they'll be like, "There's so many F-bombs in here," but like it could be the most violent thing you've ever seen, and like my mom will like scream and get queasy, but like it's not. It's so weird how the priorities, I guess. But my dad did take me to see the re-release of The Exorcist in theaters. I think when I was 12. Okay. So that was a win. That was a win because that was violence, masturbation, profanity, and like demons. Kind of blasphemy.
But also devout Catholicism underneath it all.
I've been trying to get it approved to teach.
It has been way too long since I've been able to say this, but welcome back to Split Picks. Our plan was to record an episode every month of the year 2024, but, life got in the way, and Brett and I started undertaking all these oral histories that apparently are a lot of work. So, it is now October Horror 2025, and we are dusting off this old show. I am Craig Wright, and I am super excited to welcome today's guest to Split Picks for the first time, calling in from New Jersey.
Yes, the home of video violence.
Excellent. Well, if you don't already know the voice, that is Aaron Bartuska. Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me, Craig. Go Birds. I don't know when this is coming out. Yeah, who knows how they're doing at this point. But right now we're recording during the season opener, so I'm going to give a confident Go Birds.
Aaron's got one eye on our screen and one eye on his phone watching the game like Homer Simpson in church. So there may be some odd answers. He'll be telling us it's 3rd and 19 at some point, but we'll roll with it. And from Ohio, the man who quite literally wrote the book on shot on video horror, we've got Vincent Albarano. Vincent, how you doing today?
Good, doing good. Thanks for having me, and glad to finally record one of these. We've talked about it for a while. And just to match Aaron's football thing, I don't care, so no Go Bucks. I don't really care how Ohio State
Vince,
is
you've
doing.
You've never been on a Split Picks before?
No?
I haven't done one since I've known either of you.
I feel a lot better now.
Yeah, I mean, the last few Octobers we tried to look at different countries of horror, and we failed to factor in that when you're trying to have something to say about an entire country's history of horror movies, it takes a lot of preparation. So after Japan, it was kind of like, okay, let's come up with something different this year. And then we'd had too many ideas for last year, and it just kind of was the one that didn't really happen. So I think the last episode of Split Picks I wasn't even on. But we are here today because we are talking about Video Violence 1 and 2 from director Gary P. Cohen. Aaron, you are actually the one who introduced me to Gary Cohen's work, so why don't we start with you? How did you first encounter his work, and what stood out to you about it?
Yeah, I don't remember how exactly, but during the pandemic, I got really into AGFA and a lot of Vinegar Syndrome releases, and that was really like the beginning of my SOV journey, you know, with like Blood Lake and Wicked World, and I think I watched Things for the first time and just a bunch of stuff. And going through all of that, I started to discover all these other SOV horror films that weren't released by AGFA, and also like the sub-labels and all that stuff too. You know, Vinegar Syndrome puts out a bunch of stuff from a bunch of different labels, and TerrorVision had the Video Violence release. I feel like I heard about Video Violence before that release got put out. I don't know if the timeline's matching up there, but it was kind of a mystery for me for a while. Like, I couldn't find it. And so it was just like this awesome artwork. And I knew that the director had shot it in Frenchtown, which is 40 minutes north of me, 10 minutes away from the Halloween capital of the world, Lambertville, New Jersey.
Which is something I wanted to ask you about, yeah.
Yes, we will totally get into that. I went for the first time this past Halloween, and it blew my mind. But yeah, it was kind of just this mystery to me for so long, and then I finally got my hands on the Blu-ray, and it became an obsession. I'm really into something about locally shot horror especially, but just films in general is just like, I don't know if this is something for you guys too, but just whenever I know that something is shot in a recognizable place for me, like it's why I love Shyamalan movies, you know, because I went to school in Philly, and it's why I love Gary P. Cohen movies, because I literally had been to Frenchtown before, and I didn't know that they had an underground snuff film ring in the 80s.
So just to backtrack to Lambertville real fast, Gary P. Cohen has another movie about Lambertville. Why don't you give us a quick rundown of that? Because that's another one you told us about, and oh my God, that movie was so much fun.
Oh yeah, Halloweenville is just the most like charming little indie documentary you're ever gonna find. Feels like something you just like stumble upon. I don't even know if you would stumble upon it on like a cable broadcast or just like on the depths of YouTube, but it's awesome, and it really it's this nice balance of capturing the spirit of that town, which for anyone who doesn't know, Lambertville goes so hard for Halloween, and apparently used to go harder pre-pandemic. When I went last year, it was still pretty great, but apparently I only experienced a fraction of what it used to be. But every house is decked out. They close down streets. People spend thousands of dollars on candy. And this documentary from 2011 captures it in like, no shade to Gary Cohen, but it's not, because I also will get into, I just interviewed him for Split Tooth recently, and he admittedly was like, I'm not super proud of this documentary technically, and you can kind of tell that he kind of just got some friends to shoot some stuff, and that lends it to feeling like this sort of YouTube vlog of a documentary at some points. But I think that also adds to the charm and kind of makes you feel like you're just out on Halloween night in 2011, you know? So I just, it's a great watch. It's like an hour and change, and it's going to be a yearly Halloween watch for me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I mean, just like the citywide costume contests where there's just some of the most incredible costumes you've ever seen. It's wild. Yeah, I'm probably not going to fly to New Jersey to go there because it's far for me. I'm in Portland. I would love to see that.
Well, hey, you'll have a place to crash if you do.
Well, that's true. So. You can come see Halloween Town. We've got St. Helens out here where they film that movie.
Oh, nice.
So.
We'll swap.
There we go. So, Vincent, I want to take a wild guess with you and say that you probably heard of video violence in either a print ad in a zine or maybe on the shelf at a video store. How'd you first find Gary P. Cohen?
Yeah, you're pretty close. So this would have been back in 2007 in my middle school years, so pre-underground phase. So it was like back in '07. Camp Motion Pictures was a newer company that came out, and they released a lot of the big SOV horror titles, like both video violence movies, Splatter Farm, Cannibal Campout, a bunch of others onto DVD, and it was this big campaign. And in a lot of the magazines like Fangoria and Rue Morgue, the more mainstream magazines that I was reading at that point, there was an ad in every issue I was picking up. So I was aware of all these movies and video violence in particular. It was definitely probably close to 6 or 7 years before I actually caught up with the movies themselves, but I was aware of that through a print ad.
For those of you who don't know, Vincent has a book called Aesthetic Deviations, and it's incredible. It's about the history of shot and video horror. You get into the weeds with some of these things. Like some of the ads you send us for stories we're working on, like I found this like Norwegian alternate cover of this movie. It's like, how do you find all this? But I'm just curious, how and when did you get so interested in shot and video horror, Vincent?
Yeah, I had tried a few SOV titles through high school and stuff, and they didn't really make an impression back when I was still able to rent them. And it was 2012, 2013, about midway through undergrad, when I was watching a lot of stuff I found online. I had made my way through, the more extreme underground horror, like the necromantic films. I'd gone through a whole phase with Category 3 and Hong Kong stuff. And it was kind of like, well, now where do I go? And it's like, oh, there's always these SOV movies. And I always kind of feel funny because, like, for people that have collected these and knew them initially, like, 2013 feels like I was a latecomer, but it's going through all these waves. But at the time, it was still interesting because, you could still get. I have the big box VHS set with the basement that has the video violence DVDs that Camp Motion Pictures put out. And that's kind of how these titles became known for me back to those magazine ads. So I was still able to pick those up, and there was still some mystery to them there, and that's where I really dove in over the next 5 years up through today, where it's my main focus.
Should we get to video violence?
Yeah,
let's get to video violence. So, Aaron, you teased that you recently spoke with Gary Cohen, and the text you sent us right after that interview cracked me up, but was so perfectly on brand. Why don't you just tell us a bit what it was like to talk to Gary Cohen and what your text was to us?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it word for word, but I think it was something along the lines of, if you're ever having a bad day and you just need to have a great conversation with someone, just hit up Gary P. Cohen.
He was the nicest man on earth, was, I think, the direct quote.
So nice. Like I feel like Mall Santa is kind of maybe not the way to describe it, but like he's just like a jolly guy. I don't know. We talked about the SOV flicks for a good amount of the interview, but like he invited me to come see his band at at Peddler's Village in PA, the Back Porch Jug Band.
Oh my God.
He plays guitar and banjo. He also talked a lot about like his theatrical work. He's written a bunch of plays. He did plays in the park in Edison, New Jersey for like most of his life. That's actually where a lot of the video violence collaborators come from.
Yeah. And
yeah, he's just like an all-around great guy. And that's one of the things that we talked about, was just like, as a budding filmmaker myself, I'm always like, when is it time to stop making things locally? And is there a time to do that? And Gary kind of convinced me that, like, no, you don't really have to. You can just make stuff locally and be a local legend. And we literally talked about something that I've been thinking about a lot, which is, would you rather be a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a huge pond, right? And he chose the big fish route, and he's like one of the most prolific people in the Lambertville area, and I think there's value to that. And he was just a total joy to talk to for a guy who's made some pretty fucked up films.
Yeah. The origin story for video violence is great because it's actually a scene that's shot and recreated in the movie. But are either of you familiar with how this movie came about, the initial idea?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's become like lore at this point in independent horror and video world. The mother renting or trying to rent I Dismember Mama, but having some reservations because she has kids and it's going to be for them. So she wants to know if there's any nudity in it. And Gary Cohen, who owned 2 video stores at the time, was working and told her, well, no, but you could tell from the title that it's very violent. She's like, oh, that's no worry, and rented it anyway. Yeah, his spark to make Video Violence 1 was basically just like, that's odd, isn't it? That we approach it with this attitude.
A little bit. And I got to say, that scene in the movie, the way she's carrying that baby is so concerning. It's just like half of an arm, like almost a headlock. So, Vincent, do you want to give us a quick rundown of Video Violence's basic plot? Just kind of what's going on here?
Yeah, so basically the main thrust of the film is about Stephen and Rachel Emery, who've just moved to, forget the name in the film, but it was shot in Frenchtown, so a very small, quiet, unassuming village in New Jersey. They've just moved from New York, where he worked in the theatrical business, and he opens the only video rental store in town. And what's odd is that everybody in town seems to have a VCR. There are no theaters. It's the only rental store in the area, and business is great, as it was at the time. One day, he and a younger man in town that's one of his employees notice a strange tape gets returned through the dropbox, and they put it in, and it appears to show the murder of the postmaster who, as far as anyone in the town is concerned, has retired to Florida. And basically it proceeds as a series of tapes and investigations from there, as Stephen and his wife attempt to uncover this dark secret of the town and get very strange pushback from the almost too friendly locals.
The locals are kind of the lifeblood of the movie, and part of the reason why I'm here in the corner of the sequel, but we'll get into that. But essentially it turns into like this mystery of, who's making these tapes, and gradually throughout the film, it turns out that it's everyone. And everyone kind of has a hand in this this underground snuff film ring. And it's this couple, I forget their names in the film.
Stephen and Rachel.
Yes. Played by a real-life couple that was involved in Plays in the Park. It's a town-wide conspiracy, and it doesn't end too well for the people who dig too deep.
I love how this movie unfolds, though, because they do a great job of, like, I feel like I'm crazy for thinking all of this is true, but pretty much every word that leaves Steven's mouth is true. He's like, there's no way they could be doing this, but they're totally doing it. Maybe we should talk about the first tape first, because it has a weird quality about it where, Steven immediately looks at it and says, like, this is real. Like, it has to be shot on video. There's no way this is like an actual movie. Vincent, maybe I'll send this to you, because what you asked us in the preparation, like, what are some shot on video movies you guys love? So I was just kind of making sure I was going to say the right thing. I went to a Reddit page where someone said, what are like your favorite shot on video horror movies? And everyone was just talking about found footage. So I think there is, definition disconnect somewhere, but obviously the guy in the movie sees a film, realizes like this is shot on video. What are some defining characteristics of shot on video other than just like, oh, this is the Blair Witch Project? Like, oh no, but that's still a movie.
Which Blair Witch, you got to throw in there. Half of that's on 16 millimeter too. So
yeah, I mean, this is like VHS quality I believe
this is
the tape, right?
Yeah, and this is, I think one interesting thing is that Video Violence because it had a budget and was a more upscale production, it was shot on 3/4 inch video, which is like the big chunky reels, like news broadcast. And for the snuff footage, they used SVHS, which is the consumer camcorder. So it's the much grainier, grittier. You have like the smearing visuals with the handheld camera work. The audio is recorded just through the mic on the camera itself, so it's a little muffled and kind of indistinct. Those are the qualities that stick in my mind. And I don't know why this hasn't clicked with me in other instances of watching this movie, because I've seen it a ton. But this time it's like Gary Cohen kind of pulls back the curtain and acknowledges like shot on video is its own thing. Like he makes it its own category and refers to it here. And it almost implies that sense of authenticity that this movie and the snuff tapes are definitely driving at. But this idea that we're watching a shot on video movie he's made, but even that is removed from this class of the found or dumped in the Dropbox tapes.
I will also say that in talking to Gary, he was very proud of the fact that he predated Blair Witch by like over a decade. He was gloating about that.
So Vince, you've mentioned like the origin story of this movie has some lore about it. I mean, this has kind of become an exemplary shot on video movie. Like what to both of you stands out about why we're talking about this today and why it has kind of lived the life it has?
I think the plainest reason, like less for our generation than the one, experiencing it in video stores, is after Blood Cult, this was the most commercially successful and widely distributed shot on video movie on tape. And with that, you have the iconic cover art for both films, I would argue. But the first one with the bloody hand reaching into the VCR, and of course the tagline, "When renting is not enough."
So great.
It's perfect. Like, that is a perfectly concentrated package. And I think that's why it made an impact. And also the fact that, we'll get into this more later, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's, I think like 105 minutes, which for any shot on video movie is, you're asking a lot.
That's a tall
for
order,
people.
yeah.
And it's one that, it parts may drag, but overall it pulls it off. So like it's a self-contained unit in every sense.
Vince, there's two pieces of lore, one that I had confirmed by Gary and one that I didn't, which is the budget, where apparently this had because you said this had a budget, but I've also heard that this had a $6 budget, which I don't know how true that is. And then also the fact that Gary only had 8 hours to edit it, which is something that he confirmed when we were talking together. But do you know anything about those two little factoids?
Yeah, the budget I don't know as much about, because I get from other interviews with him, he's kind of dismissive in a comedic way, kind of to undercut the shortcomings. But, again, we're telling you, this was shot on 3/4 inch video. This isn't just tapes that you could buy at a Kmart.
Right.
So there was some capital behind it. Nothing substantial, but it more than Splatter Farm being made for $100 on one of the actors' grandma's farms.
Right. Well, it sounds like Gary might have utilized a similar thing that I've been doing lately, where as a high school teacher, I have just free gear that I can use to make my own films. And I think I recall something, I don't remember the specifics, but I think he had a job at that time that he was pulling gear from and using resources to, or a connection to a local TV station or something. I forget the specifics. I apologize.
He did have a connection to the station, and apparently it was, he had not booked time, but had been given all this time to edit. And I guess somebody came in or saw the tape he was editing. They're like, "Oh, you can't be doing that. You have like the graveyard shift now." And that's why he had 8 hours.
Gotcha.
So we kind of teased the first tape earlier, but it's rough. Like, I like that the quality of the tapes improves throughout the movie, because the first ones are so sloppy, and like I think the best part is at the end after they kill the mailman, you hear Eli go, "Oh, bummer, I spilled my beer." It's just like two dudes with a camcorder like, let's kill some people. We obviously get to know them a lot better throughout both movies. They become the stars of the second one, which we'll get to. But how do you feel about how these characters are rolled out? Because this movie just keeps going, and it just keeps building in a great way.
Well, I think that not talking specifically about Howard and Eli, but just the roughness and the kind of uneasiness of those tapes, I think just something about the lower quality footage for me just tricks my brain into being more creeped out by it and more like skeeved out by it. Because it's the same reason why like I've never been fully able to stomach the August Underground films, which are like, I don't know, I found out about way too young, and then like I'm like in 7th grade watching a girl get her nipple cut off on like some like torrent site, but it kind of gives me the same vibe where like, yeah, those are going a lot more dark and exploitative and what have you. This is obviously, especially with the sequel, getting more tongue-in-cheek, but even here, which is something I also want to talk about, is just like the charm of these movies. But I just feel like something about it feeling old and feeling like something I could have discovered on the shelf of a video store just makes it feel more real to me than anything, like than any Saw movie or any, I don't know if there's anything to that, but it's just like something in my brain, it just like sets something off.
August Underground is a good comparison to make, Aaron, because I think everybody envisions, or at least to a point in time envisioned, snuff as, crude and rough and raw and just nasty. And that's how these start. I'd say the first at least 2 or 3 of the tapes certainly fit that bill. And I think it also probes this really interesting question of like the aesthetics of the violence itself, because where I said that the authenticity of it is up front initially, it's almost like the townspeople kind of want to shed this authenticity and just get their killing fix on film and know it's there, but the appearance is very different by the end, which I guess that's all kind of elusive, so we can jump ahead to the vampire in a little if we want.
The first tape, they're literally like putting the camera on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
The violence is out of focus, and they're like cutting off fingers off camera because the killer needed help. But then like Howard becomes like a Roman cameraman, and they basically become local celebrities, and everyone like nods and points when they're coming to town. And it's like they're celebrating that they have these 2 madmen with them. I love the story that Eli, in real life, his name, he only goes by Uke. Apparently he was, Gary P. Cohen in one of the interviews says he was either, what was it? I had to write it down because it was just like, there's no way this is real.
One of them he said work for the county, and that's all he said.
You have here exterminator or picked up roadkill for the county.
Yeah, and he just said like he was our guy.
But in the second one, his name has a fuller credit that I should have written down. Like, it's still not a full name, but like it hints at where the U comes from, like what it's short for.
Oh,
okay.
There is a no. I've got it up right here. So there is a song in the film called "The Alligator Blues," and the lyrics are written by J. Uke Kowalik.
That's what I found. Yeah.
Unless it's just another guy with the nickname Uke,
Probably slim odds.
But no, but it is. I think it's I think that's a song that they perform. So that's the full name there. You heard it here first, folks.
We've identified Eli.
So this movie starts, the first scene I want to talk about, because it does an interesting setup where it feels like the sporting goods store is probably going to be a big part of this movie. But then I don't think these characters come back. Maybe they're in the very last shot when the whole town is there. But a woman goes into a sporting goods store to buy a new flannel, and she goes into the dressing room, and the 2 dudes are just kind of like, all right. And it kind of seems like they're just going to spy on her changing, and then one of them grabs a baseball bat. How do you feel this sets up the movie?
That's, to me, so fascinating because it starts the film off and how it centers on these commercial spaces in this little town. Like, we have the sporting goods store and this whole retail experience. The rest of the film is in the video rental store, or even the deli's another example.
Yeah.
So these snapshots of like middle class, mid-American life are what really come to the forefront for me. But yeah, it is interesting that here are two killers that we don't see filming like we would expect. We don't see them again. I do think they are at the very end with the whole town gathered, but yeah, it just kind of introduces this idea of how big is this? What kind of conspiracy is going on in this town? And I think at the very end of the film, after the whole town gathered scene when the rental store has been taken over, that could give a glimpse at what's going on here too, when it's just, an endless parade of blank art snuff tapes for rental. Like, maybe they've just all been around there and Howard and Eli are the only ones that got picked up, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's hinted throughout that, the town people have been trading tapes. Like, it's been a thing for a bit at this point at least, but some of the tapes are pretty gnarly, and they're just smiling and laughing the whole time, and like, this is so fun. Then we get to the deli scene. It's insane where it goes. At this point, like, it's very clear Howard and Eli are like stars. The cops are blocking the doors for them and like, all right, I'm a part of this. And then the couple gets lemonade and they get poisoned. I don't know. Maybe we should start with the deli, because that takes a wild turn into cannibalism that I did not see coming.
Well, they kind of tease it earlier where, is it Rachel, the protagonist's wife, goes and buys bologna at the deli. She also gets like a comically small amount of bologna in that scene. Anyway. But yeah, she does that, and like everyone is very weird and stony to her, and it's not a great leap for a town with a secret to go into cannibalism, but I think they kind of plant the seed there. And then we return to the deli for, you said, a pretty gnarly and also kind of well-known scene as far as that goes with this. The decapitation is definitely an image you see.
The meat slicer is like another one that sticks in my head. I went to that gas station slash deli to I don't know, relive some of the the 80s glory. And first of all, that's not how arms work, though, right? That's like kind of just an interesting. I don't know where the bone is there, any of the bone marrow, but it makes for a great visual.
The guy had excellent technique catching each slice, so
yeah. And then there's a callback in the sequel where Jackie Neal is like, "Oh, I shudder to think what I ate when I ordered from the deli," right?
Yeah, so some of these tapes really relish in like the pain and suffering, and some are just kind of like, okay, broken neck, done. Does the violence and maybe the torture scene especially, do you feel like that ever crossed the line and undermines Gary Cohen's aims?
Yeah, that's something that I kind of grappled with for a while because, the obvious, as we said, like the lore behind the film is that he thought it was crazy that violence was acceptable and sex was looked down on. And then we get to the torture scene where Eli carves his name in the woman's chest, and like it's very much like a proto August Underground like humiliation scene. Like, it's pretty jarring, and it's like, at what level is this meant to just be repulsive, and what's the aim if that is all that's going on? And at what level is, the filmmaker or the cast and crew getting carried away with this? Like, does it kind of short its own message? And I don't really have an answer for that.
Well, I might be able to offer up something of an answer, because I asked him about, making a film that sort of plays into the exact things he was trying to comment on. And he was just like, no, we wanted to like profit off of that idea. Basically, he was like, yeah, no, like I think the lore has made it sound like he made this film kind of as a reaction to that woman coming into the store, but really it was kind of like, oh, this is what people are fine with, this is what people want. Like, let's like make something that will sell.
I have to say I respect the shit out of that. So
same.
Yeah. I see what you mean by like, you know, he's kind of towing the line, but to me, I think the most disturbing scene is when there's a guy who's like digging a hole, and then he goes inside, turns on the TV, and he's watching the Eli Show, and they're cutting off a woman's leg, and like she's screaming. He's just looking at the TV, just kind of calmly going, "Yeah, make that bitch cry," and like that is where it's like, oh, okay, I don't really think the filmmakers are in on this, because they're like in on the joke part. Like there is some critique of like, this is what the people watching it are doing, and I think that does give them a bit, you know, they zoom out a bit to like, this is kind of what violence can do. But what do you guys feel that scene adds to the film? Because it is kind of just tossed in there at an interesting moment.
if I can read cynically into somebody that does not seem like a cynical man, Gary Cohen, that is, it's like he dealt with how many rental customers a day at this point in his life? Like, you're bound to get worn thin by the people you're surrounded with. So if he has a less than charitable view of some of his audience, maybe that's earned, because it does come up throughout the film, like the so-called niece of the couple that's in town. She's like, "Oh, everybody just wants to rent these horror movies. I'm sick of it. Do you have like Abbott and Costello?" I think. It's like, I think there is something of a distaste just for the genre material informing the film as well.
Imagine what Gary thinks of TikTok.
Hopefully you can provide us evidence of that.
Give him a call. Vincent, you've kind of alluded to one tape you like from this movie. So the first time Rachel sees a film, it's slipped into her purse at the deli. They pop the tape in together, and it is not at all like what Steven has been describing to her. What is this one, and why does it stand out to you?
Yeah, so it's The Vampire Takes a Bride, which every time since the first time I watched it is like the showstopper in the movie for me. It's this very mellow, dreamy. I think it's also shot on 3/4-inch video, so it has the professional look unlike the other snuff tapes. It has this really hypnotic, bizarre, like almost like prom slow dance synth track. That's great. And like the whole thing plays out like a Euro art film. It's like a dollar store roll-on sequence. And it's just so fascinating because you have that sequence and it has, you know, nudity, and the woman ends up disemboweled and bit by the vampire. It's this really fantastic construct that's at odds with, you know, the razor blades and meat slicers we've seen in every other scene. But the couple straight up discuss, like, no, wait, they edited this and it has production value, and they added music in after the fact. And it just is so interesting to me in the way that it brings the very aesthetics of these films to the forefront again, but also charts their evolution. And Steven even mentions the next day, I believe, that he looks it up, and it's playing at a theater in New York, whereas earlier he had used the whole theatrical experience in New York to contrast with the video renting audience and the lack of class in the regard to that. And now it's like this widespread infiltration of these films.
That sequence is one of my favorite sequences in this film, and it honestly is kind of telling as to why I like the sequel so much, is because the sequel is basically just made up of sequence. It starts with a sequence that mirrors that, and then just is made up of sequences kind of like that. Like, what I love about video violence so much is the film within a film of it all, right? I think that's so something about me has always been fascinated with watching people watching things, and I don't know what that is. Not in like the Twitch streaming YouTube React way, but in like the building a narrative around the idea of watching something. Probably goes back to like me seeing The Ring as a 4-year-old, right? But like I don't know, just I think that sequence is it's very, very hypnotic, very dreamlike, a kind of shift in pace for the film. Does it do that? There's an effect in the second one that happens so often, and I forget if it happens in this sequence in the first one, where it's like doing like stunted, like it's like slowed down a little bit and the frames are like skipping. Does that happen in there, or am I misremembering that?
I think it does happen a couple times in there.
Yeah, because that really adds to the dreaminess.
This is like a 4-minute sequence. They show the whole thing in Video Violence 1.
It's the first moment that, like, again, you're seeing the characters notice that there's production value to these things, and you're also being like, oh, these guys, like, they're having fun with these snuff films. It's not just it's not just people basically turning a camera on and pointing it at whatever they're doing. Like, they are going out of their way to give these some character and to emulate classic monster movies while also murdering women, right? It's like, I don't know, it adds an interesting element to like, what is are there auteurs in the town? Like, and then there's like low level snuff filmmakers where people are like, oh, not this guy again. Right. But then like everyone's trying to rent the
chainsaw movie.
Yeah. That chainsaw movie.
I feel like when people are given the invitation to partake in violence, most often it is accepted. And I think this town's just kind of at the point of like, it's a shared secret, and if you're not involved in it, you're a target. And like I wrote down at the very end when, you know, they're in the basement, the townspeople are there, the main couple is trying to save a woman who they think has been kidnapped by Howard and Eli, but kind of leads them right into their lair. And she tells them, you know, today is the age of video violence. People have been making and swapping home porno movies for years. We're doing our own version. She also goes on to say, like, no special effects can ever replicate real. We're not insane. We're ahead of our time. And there is something to that. I mean, it makes me think of the scene in Tropic Thunder where they're walking through the jungle and Jay Baruchel is just like, you know, the difference between Blu-ray and HD DVD came down to porn, because porn always decides what technology is going to take off.
I mean, that's why VHS versus Beta basically happened as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's some truth to it.
It all comes back to porn.
Yeah. That's what SOV horror really is in a nutshell. It's a fine line from porn.
I thought it was pretty funny in one of the interviews on the TerrorVision Blu-ray. Gary Cohen says, if you haven't seen Video Violence, go in knowing, no, they're not good, but they're in earnest and they have a sense of humor behind them. I disagree with him that they're not good. I mean, I understand what he means when he says that, because I do often describe, especially horror movies, to friends, movies I love, as being terrible. You know, oh, this one's terrible, but you're going to love it. Because I think you just need to let people know sometimes that this is not a movie that's going to win Oscars, but it's a ton of fun, and you just need to get on the movie's wavelength. But with that in mind, like, how would you tell people to approach these movies? Because the difference between the first and second one is, I guess it's not as far as I want to believe it is, but they're definitely different movies. I think they're both really, really solid movies. What's your guys' take on that?
You have a beer or two during the first one, and then you take a 30-minute break, in which time you take 5 shots, and then you go into the second one. Maybe smoke a joint also.
Is this part of your 999 challenge?
Whoa, hey, yes. No hot dogs, though. I don't think you would. Yeah. I don't think the meat of choice to eat during Video Violence is a hot dog. That sounds like it wouldn't go over well. You'd be thinking you're eating a tiny arm.
Tiny. Vincent, what about you? How would you prep people to watch this?
Yeah, I'd be more like, yeah, just like get a 6-pack. And one of the things that I always do when I recommend things to people is I single out, like one of the more unique or, you could say heinous things that happen. It's like, don't you want to watch a movie where somebody's arm gets run through a deli slicer? Like, just check it out. You just give them the hook with no context. That's how you go to it.
I think this movie should be an easy sell. People are trading homemade murder tapes. Boom, I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Gary said something similar when I was talking to him, just about like, they're not good, but people like them. And I think part of that comes from him. I don't think he had aspirations to be an SOV or to be known for that. Right? He obviously wanted to be more known for like his theatrical work, his musical work. But what he does realize, and I think what he appreciates a lot, is that this speaks to a large fandom, right? People love these films unironically. Mm-hmm. And I think at some point in our conversation, I forget if he said this verbatim, but he was like, if this is what I'm remembered for, that's not that bad. Right? So I think there's different levels of good. And like, yeah, this isn't The Godfather, but I would say that Video Violence and Video Violence 2 are probably The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 of SOV films. if I can speak so bluntly, I don't know.
I would take this over most modern horror movies in a heartbeat, so,
Yeah.
We'll tell you, why don't we take a little break? Aaron, go do your shots or whatever you're going to do, and we'll be back to talk about Video Violence 2.
Warm up your chainsaws and sharpen your knives. It's time for those gurus of gore. Yes, it's the Howard and Eli Show. Tonight's homemade splatter videos include another visit to the Zany Video Studio, a homemade electric chair, and a succulent segment on violent young college women.
So in a weird sense, Video Violence 2 is kind of a buddy comedy. Howard and Eli become the center of the film, and they enjoy every second they have under the bright lights. It's so much fun. And it feels weird to say that, but like, this movie is just a blast. But before we dive into Video Violence 2 fully, I do want to take a second, because I've got you here, Aaron. I want to shout out another movie that's centered around two friends. Split Tooth a few months ago had the honor of hosting the online premiere of the Yardley Boys. This is a film directed by you, Aaron. And first off, I just want to say I had so many people reach out about that movie just to say how much they enjoyed it, and few posts have had that appreciative of a response. I think you absolutely knocked that movie out of the park. Like, I know you like baseball, so I threw in a baseball reference for you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much.
But it is a great movie about two friends looking for a lost cat, and then other stuff comes up. So I'm just curious what you feel are some of the keys to making a film centered around a friendship.
Yeah. I think that buddy comedies, and specifically films about male vulnerability, are of peak interest to me right now. It's actually funny that you bring this up, Craig, because I follow Letterboxd on Instagram, and they just posted something about like a male friendship list. I think because that new Dylan O'Brien movie's coming out where he's a twin, and also it's just been in the zeitgeist with the Tim Robinson movie and all that stuff. But I think like the key to a good buddy comedy is that, the friends need to have a common goal that they can focus on while still going through some sort of change, right? So like Superbad, they both want to get laid, but they also are going to different colleges, right? And Lethal Weapon, I think they both want to catch criminals, but like Mel Gibson is doing a bunch of drugs. I haven't seen that in a while. I don't know. Yardley Boys, they're searching for a missing cat, and they also are moving away. I just ripped off Superbad for the Yardley Boys, if you couldn't tell. And then in Video Violence, they want to murder people, but they also got a show to run, right? So it's the push and pull of having common goals, but also being pulled in different directions.
You trying to skirt out of talking about your own work, I see, but...
Oh, yeah, the Yardley Boys. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, yeah, you're right. I've been trying to make movies for years now. I have been making movies for years, but I went to film school in Philly. Go Phils, go Birds. And I've always wanted to be one of those filmmakers who, I don't really care about having a perfect track record. I more so care about having potentially mediocre films, as long as they represent growth or a point in my life. So The Yardley Boys is technically my fourth feature film that I shot. And I feel like it's my most comfortable, concise piece of work. It's a quick watch. It's a 55-minute film. Still technically a feature, according to the Oscars, which it is up for a few this year, actually. You'd be surprised. And it came out of me spending a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of resources on a bigger film the summer prior. And I just got so tired of the post-production process on that and so burnt out by the experience of making that. A film that I also love. But I just needed to get back to, down to brass tacks and make something with my friends the way that we used to make films when we were in high school or when we were kids. And so that's what The Yardley Boys is. That's what it's trying to capture. And it is also about being in your hometown and living right off of the Delaware River, just like our boys Howard and Eli do. And it is about appreciating where you came from and your local culture. Did I do okay there?
You did great. No, it is a very beautiful film, and like I mean it when I say we were so proud that we were able to host that at Split Tooth. So if you haven't seen it yet, give it a watch. It's on Split Tooth for free. You won't regret it. And if you do, I'm sorry.
I'm also sorry.
Oddly enough, that is kind of a perfect segue into what happened between the video violence films, though, because Gary Cohen wanted to make a serious movie. He had an idea for kind of a home invasion film. He had the title of Captives. It did not come out like that. Do either of you want to give a little background on how that movie was released, if you're familiar?
Yeah, so Camp did not put out Captives. I forget the name. It was a smaller distributor, more of like a fly-by-night. And it came out as Mama's Home with this ridiculous cover art of a woman holding somebody at knife point through a window. None of these people appear in the movie itself. And it was re-edited as well from the original version that Gary Cohen had completed. And the tape itself was rare. He wasn't happy with how it came out. I don't think he saw a dime from it. So just nothing good about that experience.
I think he said he never saw the final cut either that came out. I have not seen that version. I've seen Gary Cohen's intended version, which is, I think, more available now, correct?
At this point, it's funny because the original VHS versions that were the proper versions for so long are harder to find than the reissued actual proper versions. Yeah. So I would say the 2B1 is Captives, not Mama's Home.
It is a kind of a family drama. It gets murdery, obviously, but they really wanted to make something.
It's two family dramas, actually.
That's true.
Yeah. I did, and so when I was talking to Gary about this, he said that one of the things they took out was the intro with the one family getting ready for the day and the newspaper person throwing the papers and bringing us from one house to another.
That's great, though.
That's crucial to that movie, and I feel like both. It kind of is a beautiful little trilogy, although Captives is probably the darkest or most played straight out of the three, but they all are dealing with this kind of suburban panic, I think, and this sort of what's going on in the basements of these homes that have white picket fences, and I brought that idea up to Gary and he was like, oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. And I was like, there's no fucking way you didn't. What are you talking about? But I don't think I would watch Captives I don't think I would watch them in that order. I don't think I would go Video Violence, Captives, Video Violence 2, because then you're just kind of getting like tonal whiplash. But yeah,
I agree.
Captives last for sure. That's the move.
The two things for Captives that are like fascinating to me is, first of all, it's Gary Cohen, his wife, and his toddler son cast in the film. So like you were saying, Aaron, it's like, how could he not have thought of that? Like Suburban Panic, centering his family unit. And then the other thing is that like it proceeds basically like in miniature. It is so minute, each action proceeding to the next, that it's not necessarily in real time, but it very well could be. Like, it's so minor key.
Yes, yeah,
but
definitely.
Not dull.
And there is like the common theme with these Gary P. Cohen films is that there's just a elongated sequence of just people watching a video, right? And that continues in Captives, which also kind of gives it the unofficial trilogy feeling, and the fact that they were all shot within, I think, basically a 2-year span.
I think wasn't the babysitter wearing one of the "I'm a Lifer" shirts too?
She was.
Yeah, that's a great Easter egg.
Yeah.
And Art and Jackie Neal, the leads of Video Violence 1, are brother and sister in Captives.
And kind of lovers too.
Yeah.
Almost incestual. It's like, what?
And
what?
the guy who's taking care of the baby, the one who's like bonding with the baby, he's the director in the beginning of Video Violence 2.
Yeah.
Also, I believe.
Yeah. So from what I can gather, it sounds like Gary Cohen was pretty unhappy with the whole process of making Captives, and he decided, why don't we go back to Video Violence? It is a different movie from the first. Aaron, why don't you give us a quick rundown on what's going on in this movie? Because it's a great time.
So Video Violence 2 is light years ahead of its time. It is basically, we've been talking about, video violence and this small underground snuff film cult, and Howard and Eli are basically the stars, right? Well, this gives us a look inside. There's like 10 minutes on either end at the beginning and the end of the film, but the middle 50 minutes is basically a television broadcast, where Howard and Eli have hacked into the local TV station.
I think it's national at this point, isn't it?
Is it national?
I think so.
It might be national.
Because they're being investigated by the FBI and everything, so I think it has gotten out because no one knows where they're located.
Everyone is, everyone's dying to see this snuff film output. And so the middle 50 minutes is just this talk show with Howard and Eli, and their sidekick Gordon, who is the Paul Schaefer of the Howard and Eli Show. It's got interstitials, it's got fake ads, and it is such a fun, out of left field idea for a sequel. It's like so obvious now, but in '87, the fact that he had the just audacity to do this with his franchise is kind of wild. It predates, WNUF Halloween Special, and Gary would say it predates, Blair Witch and The Last Broadcast and stuff like Ghost Watch and all that. But even it's giving Tim and Eric vibes. It's got an anthology aspect that kind of emulates these new VHS films that come out every other month. So the VHS, the franchise, not the format. I just think it's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Video Violence 2 is great. And of the two, it's the easier sell if somebody's like, you have 80 minutes of my time. You're going to make an impact with this one. I'm fascinated by, again, Gary Cohen's pulling up of the aesthetic and formal conditions that enable his films to be made. It's we're going to hang out at the cable access station and we're gonna go behind the scenes and just make the most like off the wall stuff that we can. Oh, and guess what? Camp's gonna pay us to put it out. Like, that's ballsy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he pulls it off. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so Howard and Eli just, they ham it up for the camera. They're like, red blazer for Howard, and Eli is just like the, talk show host from hell, but still, yeah, cracking jokes, and they have slow motion replays. They have a live guest on WGOR. I don't know, the vibe I get is just, it's kind of like a musician who writes like really morbid lyrics as pop songs. Like, it just kind of has that feel of like, this is, why am I bopping my head to this? But people are getting mutilated. It's also built around other people submitting tapes to them mostly, which I think is the key distinction, is that their influence has really spread, and now people are trying to be a part of their show, and they're showing the highlights. It's a a demented America's Funniest Home Videos in a way.
There's an infomercial in there of all of the different names of the tapes, and it's I mean, do you want me to rattle them off, Craig? I got them right here.
I wrote my two favorites down. Do you have any that stuck to the top for you?
I was just gonna say all of them.
All of them? Okay. There were a lot.
Electrocuting Rita, Nail the Mailman, Paper Punching of Polly, Chainsaw Accountants, Red Rum She Wrote, Roasting Rosie, Two Ghouls for Sister Tara, Deli Madness, Tilly's Punctured Bladder, Frenchtown Follies, there we go, a little local reference there, Severing Sally, The Killing of Mr. and Mrs. Emery, The Vampire Takes a Bride, classic throwback, Return of the Machine Shop, I Ate Your Guts, Amateur MDs, The Close Shave. Is that a Spielberg reference? Never mind. Ice Pick, anyone? Eat My Heart Out, Splatter or Suffocate, Helly Gets a Pounding, Stapling Stanley, Carl the Cuddly Cannibal, Does Your Fish Bite, Keep Your Eye Out, Murray Eats His Magnum, I like that one, Dissecting Victor, Castrating Cats, So You Want to Be a Star, Captives is in there, The Serial Killer, spelled like the breakfast food, An Arm and a Leg, Those Lovable Cut-Ups, and Howard and Eli bloopers.
You got the job.
Yeah. All of this plays over like a repeated like shower scene intruder sequence as well, which is
with Freddie and Michael Myers.
And
as
Norman
just
Bates.
two of the featured guests. Yeah.
It's just balls to the wall. It's totally my brand of SOV, which is just like, let's fucking have some fun with this. Like, I don't know. This movie just feels a lot. I have such an affinity for the first one, but this one just feels so loose and fun and laid back. And yeah, I mean, people are saying the new Naked Gun movie has a joke per minute, but like, this actually has a joke per minute, and it's not even supposed to be a comedy. Like,
I would argue this one feels more like a comedy than a horror movie, just because it is so over-the-top ridiculous, but they use the gore as like, oh, it wasn't enough for you last time, what about this? Like, the whole part where they have a woman comes on who thinks she's auditioning for a movie.
Debbie Landau.
Yeah, turns out she's not, and she's already gotten the part. But they ask her to rate the videos.
Yeah, they cut her thumb off. They cut her thumb up. And then later on, they're like, we would give this video 2 thumbs up, but we're all out of thumbs, which is just like a classic. There's so many good puns in here, guys. So Eli like comes in and is doing like basically a Rodney Dangerfield routine where he's like, he's talking to Gordon, our guy Gordon, and he's like, he's telling a story from Gordon's perspective of like, yeah, your sister said like, oh, I hate my brother's guts, and then you said, well, shut up and eat what I put in front of you, right? It's like just like the dumbest, cheesiest, like, I get no respect, like that vibe of joke, but it's about dismembering and castrating and. It's awesome. Also, one of the best bits in the whole movie is they introduce Miss Debbie Landau, right? And they put the subtitle actress. And then the second, like down to the frame, all of the women in these movies more or less strip nude at some point. The second that she takes her top off, like I'm saying, the second that like breast is revealed, a title card comes up that says Miss Debbie Landau, naked actress.
I didn't catch that.
And it's just like, that is a Tim and Eric bit. That is like an Eric Andre level. It's just so good. I don't know.
Just to bring it back to the whole idea of like violence versus nudity, I cracked up when they cut to, commercial break, the fan tapes, and they come back and they're like, okay, well, we covered her up, and they give her a t-shirt, but there's still like one boob exposed.
Hanging out, yeah.
But they're like, we cover up because there might be kids watching.
The word intimacy coordinator never came up, but like I was talking about, like I was like, how did this work? Like these women were not SAG-AFTRA, like what was the procedure here? And he was basically just like, it was the 80s, and I was like, yep, all right. Which he's the nicest guy ever, so I don't think there's any malpractice there, but I do think that it was just like a different time, and people were like, oh, I'm going to be in a movie. Yeah, for sure, I will. And also, there's also probably a level of no one's ever going to see this. No one will be doing a podcast about this.
In the year 2025.
Sorry. Whoops.
The tapes that come in, they cover a wide range of things. Like the first one is a commercial for a toy that like kills the recipients. I think
that one's great. Yeah.
And the mom is just like laughing.
It's like Cheddar Goblin, but again, like,
but it doesn't suck.
30 years earlier, and it doesn't suck. Yeah, exactly.
A lot of different types of tapes come in. I mean, one kind of serves as the centerpiece that I know we'll talk about. Did any stand out to you as being either like really solid or just kind of hilarious?
I really like that the town sheriff comes back in.
Yes.
For a little
That's
cameo.
the one I was gonna, yeah.
But I just love the fact that they reference, he's like, yeah, I'm great with technology, especially VCRs. And just like knowing his actions from the first movie where he erases evidence is just like hilarious.
I mean, we talked about like, is this national, is this local? But like, it builds this like regionalism into the film where like the vampire is back and the deli owners are back and here's the sheriff, and it's more like, yeah, this is just what we all do around here, and it makes this. They use it like a Tim and Eric thing, like Aaron was saying, where there's this repertory of characters and faces that we see, and it keeps them as the backbone of this world. I mean, of course, who doesn't love seeing fucking ping pong balls shoot out of a guy's eye sockets when he's electrocuted? Like, it's ridiculous, but it's hilarious.
It's glorious.
I also think this one is more like unabashedly like theater coded. Like I feel like there's a lot of there's the theater joke where Eli's like, you ever done any Beckett? And she's like, I did a condom commercial once. Is that Beckett? And he's like, that sounds pretty absurd, right? So like he's like throwing little theater references in there, but also like the movie lives and dies by how these performers are riffing and acting on camera. Like there's no, I feel like the pitch and the set and the sell of video violence is like the concept of a town selling these snuff films, and they start showing up at a video store, and there's this whole underground mystery. This one, that none of that's there. It really is all reliant on Gary P. Cohen's theater friends being able to riff for 5 to 10 minutes at a time. So I think there's something cool and like regional theater about that too.
I will say, watching the first one again, the acting is surprisingly good in that. I mean, I think so many people just assume like, okay, it's shot on video, it's going to be bad, but it like no one is really like a weak actor. Like there's obviously people who have never been in front of a camera before and they're kind of like, oh, okay, what do we do? But like the stars, and I thought the police chief especially was good, but it's convincing. I think that's all you can ask for a locally made movie like these.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that these people are used to performing, and they're used to performing with the director.
Definitely, yeah.
who also
Yeah.
makes a cameo in this film, right? But I think just that when you're making a local film, when you're making a low budget film, so much of it, I'll tie it back into the Yardley Boys for you, Craig. Like that, I think that movie is the most successful thing I've made so far in terms of just like being a movie that I can watch without losing my lunch, because it was me and my childhood friends filming in our childhood neighborhoods, in childhood homes, with no one like keeping a schedule or anything. We just like did the thing for fun, and also it was just an excuse to hang out for a week. And that's like the biggest testament I can give to Gary's films. Is just like it feels like people were hanging out and having fun and experimenting and being comfortable with one another and making something without necessarily worrying about how it came out, which I'm sure they were, but like there's something to like when you're comfortable with the people you're making something with, then you kind of let that go because you're not trying to impress anyone on set, right? I feel like that's been my problem in the past where I have people I don't know on set and then I'm like, oh, I have to be a director.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're making films with people you know, then you can just be yourself. And then I feel like the best art comes out of being yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
They do feel comfortable. Like there are a few moments you can tell like they're trying so hard not to laugh, you know, like, but it all lands, I think. This one does get a little more pointed. I think the central tape is three college girls who are kind of disgusted by Howard and Eli exclusively killing and torturing women, and they take on sexism and chauvinism and horror, and they decide they can kill just as well as any man, so they come up with a plot to order a pizza and have some fun with the pizza boy. I think this one again just kind of echoes the theme that violence is contagious and people will partake if given the option. But do you guys maybe want to walk us through that scene and what it means for the video violence films?
You were talking about in the last film, are there any moments that go too far? And I do think there is like one line that maybe goes too far.
Yeah, there's
here.
the line.
You know the line, right? Where
Yeah.
The one woman's like, certainly we have to rape him.
And castrate him, I think she says.
And castrate. And then the other girl's like, depends on what he looks like. And I'm like, okay. You get one, Gary. You get one per film, right? And he never goes past the one, so we'll let it slide. Mm-hmm. But this is just like a joy. It's like a 10 to 15 minute sequence in the middle of this 75-minute movie that feels like, I don't know, it honestly gave me like Blood Lake vibes. Like what I like about that film is just like people in one apartment just I don't know, they're like playing they're playing quarters for half of that film and drinking, and like I also got the apartment that this is filmed in kind of reminds me of the apartment from the opening of Wicked World also.
Yeah, definitely.
So I was getting a lot of those vibes. The two SOV movies I watched first that got me into all of this. It's like a guy who's seen 3 SOV movies says that one reminds him of the other ones. But yeah, Vincent, what do you think of that sequence?
I love we can just call it the pizza boy, I guess. Is what it is.
I think
so. No,
so.
it's great because, you know, I had a response prepared based on my, like, does Gary Cohen, you know, like, contradict his own, like, anti-violence stance, which, like, we've thrown out the window already on this. But I think in a more refined way, this sequence shows you that this was a movie made by adults. Like, this isn't Splatter Farm where it's like, hey, I'm going to have my best friend fist my brother and there's going to be chocolate syrup to smear on him. Where it's like, yeah, you were 17 and it shows. Like, this is an adult with a rounded perspective on the world who knows that there's going to be pushback or consequences to the actions that he's filmed in the past. You know, sometimes that backfires, like when you watch Black Devil Doll from Hell and realize that Chester Turner was a grown adult man and that was his view of gender roles at the time. That's alarming. But in Gary's case, it's like, all right, like, you're kind of letting us know, like, yes, this is how things really are. Like, I'm serious about what I'm doing, even if I'm having fun. I think it's good because, we have fun with shot on video horror. I've delved into certainly some of the most atrocious things, but like, you can't deny that it's, as misogynistic and ugly and any other detrimental thing that you want to name as mainstream horror, if not more pervasively so, just because it's unchecked. So there's something refreshing in seeing this scene presented as it is.
And I also think that probably comes from Gary being a in-touch performer. Like, I feel like there's a difference between the film world in the late 80s and the theater world in the late 80s. And maybe I don't know that much about either, but I'd be willing to bet that, the theater world is probably a little more accepting of all people and viewpoints than the film world was at that time. So I feel like maybe part of that self-awareness comes from him being a multifaceted artist, whereas some of the pitfalls of other SOV artists is like, this is all they do and this is all they think, and maybe they don't have time to be introspective about the type of messages they're putting out with their work. They just got to keep making shit.
Messages? What messages?
Yeah, right.
A few of these are pretty brainless. I mean, there's the one where a woman goes to rent a video at the store and they just wrap her head in shrink wrap and then put a hairdryer up to her. Don't know if there's much.
Also, just ends on a punchline. Every scene in this movie ends on a different punchline. I forget what the one in that scene is, but it's just like it's always just ending on a punchline and then cutting back to the Howard and Eli Show.
And I feel like this one, the humor is so much more defined that it's hard to look at this movie and be like, this is the work of Satan's, minions. Like, it's got a heart. Like, if you can't tell that this is very much a joke that the whole crew is in on, like, I don't know what to say.
Right, yeah, you're just kind of watching movies wrong at that point, I feel like.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on Gordon, but I feel like we need to
Gordon.
talk about Gordon a bit more. He's so great. Like, they literally just point to him like, Gordon, and he'll play a piano riff and does all the like laughs and stuff.
I love that he doesn't seem to like the violence.
Yeah.
They do a lot of cutaways to him, yeah.
Which, like, how did he... I'm just so interested in how Gordon found himself in this scenario.
Are you going to say no if they offer you that job?
Yeah.
I guess it depends on what the going rate is.
It might be death if you say no, but...
True, right. Well, and then there is I don't know if we want to jump to the ending this quickly, but there is, like, the rug pull of, like... Which, I'm curious what you guys think of this, because this is a part of the film that I don't really know what I think of yet. But the rug pull of everything has been staged...
That's a fair way to put it. I don't know what to say.
The last 10 minutes. Like, what are our thoughts on that?
I just don't think they had any clue what they wanted to do, how to end it. It's like, another false ending. Like, and can we land on one? I just don't think they knew.
Right.
It's a little odd because, it's like they have the fake tape from the couple from the first one that's like, we're still alive, we've been reconstructed, and we're going to kill you. But, like, I noticed last night the crew is laughing while they're watching the tape. So it's like, okay, so they do know. But, like, Gordon still takes a bullet. Like,
Right.
He spills beer on his keyboard. just like one practical thing is, like, the credits are really long on this one. Like, it's also very likely they got to the end of the script. It's like, well, fuck, we have like 55 minutes. Can we make 10 minutes worth of endings and then, 7 minutes of credits?
Right.
That's not uncommon.
I mean, as much as I love both of these movies, I don't find either of the endings really satisfying. Like, it's more about the journey for me, which I guess, like, is there an SOV movie with, like, a knockout ending? And I'm even thinking of, like, more, like, mainstream stuff, like the Evil Dead movies. Like, do I like them because of their ending? Like, not really. It's all kind of like the ride and, like, or even, like, at a certain point, some movies are just, like, I'm so inspired by the way they were made that it doesn't even really matter what's happening in them, which maybe I need to look at my own film criticism if that's my take. But But I don't know. What do you guys think of the endings here?
Second one, they definitely try to throw some like, was it all a joke the whole time? That it's kind of funny when they switch back into mean. Like, if you care about it being spoiled, maybe turn it off here. But, you know, it's like the woman is an actual actress and she's mad that they were spilling fake blood on her, and Eli gets upset and just breaks her neck. So it's like, oh, okay. The camera wasn't even rolling that time. So,
but it's like, then why did they go through all the effort of faking
Exactly.
everything? Right. Like, it's kind of out of character for Howard and Eli, which, yeah, I guess they were just making shit up as they went along. I don't know. I love it. I don't care.
it's a ride and you're there for it.
If you're going to CinemaSins an SOV movie, then you probably shouldn't be watching them, you know?
Yeah, fair enough.
I think if the first video violence had ended with the deaths and not, the extended rental scene, it would have been a perfect ending. Mm-hmm. I think if it had just ended on that downer note, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I also think to that same point, if Video Violence 2 had just been the TV special and it was like a 60-minute movie, I wouldn't have minded that much. Or if you have the cold open, I love seeing Art and Jackie Neal again, but like I don't think you need that to make Video Violence 2 a successful sequel.
So in the interview on the Blu-ray, Gary does mention that he had an idea for Video Violence 3, but it never came about. He said he wanted Video Violence 3 to be about a coven of satanic and sexy witches who discover the Howard and Eli Show, and they decide they want to torture them in revenge for all of the women they have killed. Obviously, it hasn't been made yet, but he does kind of hint like, if there's interest, I might do it. So, Aaron, I'm curious, when you spoke with him, did Video Violence 3 come up at all?
It did, and he seemed to have taken that idea a little further, where I think his idea was that it's now, webcam footage. That's the new Video Violence. And he says that every 6 months he gets an email from someone who's like, let me make Video Violence 3. And it just never jives, right? So he's definitely thinking of updating it for the modern age. I threw my hat in the ring. Doesn't sound like he's interested, so But he did say he would guest star in my upcoming SOV horror movie. So
there we go.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So come November, I might be. I mean, I'm gonna go see his band play in a couple weeks, but then come November, I might be directing Gary in a film.
That's nice. Amazing. Now, that is one thing I was wondering about, though, because it seems like if there is a Video Violence 3, it would probably have to be like TikTok, Instagram Reel, like really short form things. And that just sounds kind of awful to me. I mean, I heard Jack White was talking about a conversation he had with Bob Dylan, and the topic of technology in song came up, and they decided that the cutoff was digital technology. You don't include digital technology in a song. I feel like this movie couldn't really happen with the internet. It just seems too obvious of the like, is it fake or not? Oh, here's a video about a dog at a birthday party,
I mean, not to take this in an even darker route, but then there's also like the whole generative AI of it, right? Where it's like, or deep fakes, where it's like, how can we trust anything we're seeing? I didn't say this to Gary, and who knows if he'll listen to this episode, but I feel like you're opening up a whole can of worms there that kind of negates the charm of the concept. And I feel like if you were to do a Video Violence 3, you would have to kind of just go back to basics and make it about, or you make, it could be set in modern day, but someone, I don't know, finds a bunch of VHS tapes from the 80s that like, it's someone in Frenchtown or whatever it's called in the movie, but it's someone in Frenchtown now finding old tapes and kind of rediscover. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're doing TikTok snuff films, it's just it can't not be done. But
I think it's a tough.
I don't know.
Tough objective. I don't know. The idea is out there, though. You know, I would love to see him make it.
I would love to too. It did sound like Gary's big thing was never say never. He said that multiple times during our interview because I did ask him. I was like,
nice.
Are you the one? Would you ever take it upon yourself to direct Video Violence 3 or just another horror movie in general? And he was just kind of being like, he's like, I'm in my 70s now. Like, don't have as much energy as I did when I made those, but like, never say never. And then when I said, I was like, let me direct Video Violence 3, it was like, never say never. And I was like, oh, that's him now.
Well, I think that probably brings us to the end. So I've got to ask, I think I know which way you're both kind of leaning, but let's put these two head to head. Video Violence versus Video Violence 2. I want each of you to pick your favorite and give me a little bit about why you're going with this one. Vincent, we started with you. Why don't we go with you first?
Yep, we're going from the start. It's Video Violence 1 for me, and it's primarily because it's an aesthetic exercise in a lot of ways. It's also just, it's a downer. Like, it is,
yeah. There's
a lot of humor, but it is heavy on the bum trip, and that's honestly what I seek almost in any case. Like, I may not be able to reconcile some of the scenes, but they make me feel badly, and that's a good thing.
Can we please make heavy on the bum trip a pull quote?
Yeah, please.
I love that. Aaron, what about you?
Oh, I'm going Video Violence 2 with a bullet.
With a bullet, okay.
I just think both are great. Both are great. But I think in terms of, I just marathoned the Camp Blood movies not too long ago. And that is a franchise that at points reinvents itself, but never in a way that is anything that you couldn't have thought up drunk on a Thursday night with a couple friends, Like, I think that Video Violence 2 taking place in this meta, like it's not quite at a Book of Shadows, New Nightmare level, but it is taking an idea from the first one and making it text, right? And I feel like it's really impressive that Gary had the balls to do that with his property at that time. It really just shows that he was willing to experiment and trying to have fun. And I feel like anytime I'm watching an SOV movie, Vincent, you might be watching them so that you feel horrible. I'm watching them. I just want, really what I'm looking for is like that sense of camaraderie that comes out of making a film. And I feel like while Video Violence is definitely the more successful narrative film, I feel like Video Violence 2 is the more successful group project, friends getting together and making something. And I feel like that at a certain point becomes contagious. And it's probably the one that I would throw on if I was like in a bad mood. Like if I needed a pick me up, if I needed an SOV movie to cheer me up, probably be Video Violence 2.
No, I think Video Violence 1 is definitely a great movie if you're trying to put people on the road to like genre video horror can be really damn good. I think that is the more, I'll say the word important, just because it does do a lot of very good things very well. But if it's Friday night and I have friends coming over, I'm probably going to throw on Video Violence 2. Do with that what you will.
Yeah.
But
I also feel like you watch Video Violence Halloween night. You put Video Violence 2 on once the clock strikes midnight, and you're like dozing off.
I was hoping you were going to say Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, I
when you check out for 3.5
not
weeks.
Quite,
yeah.
Not quite. I feel like Video Violence 2 is like the George Lopez show of SOV movies, where you just like, you could doze off
After hours.
Yeah.
Video Violence 2 is Nick at Night.
Yes. And Video Violence is
whatever Nick showed at 8:45.
Nick Gas.
I'm kind of
we're not going to top that.
We're going down a dark road. We're heavy on the bum trip right now. All right, let me close this out. We can talk later. Well, I think that's all we've got for today. If you're still listening, thank you for coming back to Split Picks. We're going to do our best to make sure it's not 2 years between episodes. I think the three of us will hopefully be back in the next few weeks or so, because rumor has it Vincent may have worked on a pretty cool release himself that I think we're going to dive into, right?
Yep.
Cool.
Very much.
Excellent. October Horror is in full swing right now at Split Tooth, so be sure to follow along all month for a wide range of spooky flicks to tickle your fancy. Aaron, Vincent, thank you guys so much for joining today. This was so much fun, not only to talk about, but just to watch these movies. Yeah, we'll do this again soon.
Thank you, Craig.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's leave the gore to the experts, though. No snuff films, okay?
Gordon, play us out.
Oh, yeah, do it, Gordon. No, we got a really good show right now.
Well, that certainly was quite impressive.